The Menlyn Podium in Pretoria is an elegantly imposing building which has become an architectural landmark. A glass and concrete structure, the design is modern yet timeless and takes full advantage of its corner position to make a bold statement as a commercial address.
So we wanted to create something quite simple and plain, simplistic lines, because I think it kind of ties in with the idea of a building being timeless. And so we wanted to have a very nice, plain, simple form that kind of hugged the portion of the site, and also have this kind of very quietness about it from a conceptual point of view. And the entrance of the building actually sits on the other side, so the face of the building and the entrance of the building actually is not in the same kind of side in that sense.
The building has a number of unique facades which make it interesting to look at from all angles. It also gives a very different character to the building from each side, but with a repetition of triangles and geometry as one design element that pulls it all together.
The triangulated faceted facade actually came out of an idea we had of an old kind of archaeological kind of calculator that was found a few thousand years, well, found recently, but it's a few thousand years old, which is kind of idea of mathematics. It's also kind of the basic principle of capitalism in a way. And the building at the end of the day is a income generating investment in that sense. So we kind of utilized that as a base for a lot of the triangular facades and the floor patterns and even some portion of the building shapes you actually can see now.
The use of concrete and glass in the construction was for both aesthetic and practical reasons, as each side of the building is exposed to very different sunlight conditions. The choice of these two materials helps in the regulation of both heat and light.
Concrete, because it's a natural material, it has a delayed transfer of heat to the inside. So because we've got a 500mm thick concrete wall, by the time that the sun sets in the evening and following through to the next day, the heat will not be able to get through because it will start to cool off again on the inside. So it's a very good insulative material, and we thought that it was a really good reaction to the fact that we've got quite a big western facade and an eastern facade as well, because although it's in a lesser extent, the eastern facade does have the same problem of low angled light. It's a direct light that there's a lot of heat problems that it creates for you on any building. On the northern side, what we've done is we've got these air crate boxes. Northern sun is a direct sun, and we actually pulled the facade on the inside far enough back from that face of the concrete wall so that even in winter time, with a lower level of the sun, we can still have areas on the office that don't have any direct sunlight.
The southern side of the building is exposed to much softer, indirect sunlight and so less heat. This means that the design of this part of the building could make use of a far larger amount of glass.
So we had the opportunity to wrap the whole southern facade of the building with the glazing and not having to have any sunlight protective measures applied to the facade. So I think that sort of assists us with having this nice fluid curve that we've got from the glazing on the corner of the building.
There is one part of the building with a glass facade which does get a lot of direct sunlight, but the architects have used a clever design trick to counter this.
So on the northern side, we initially had designed an aluminium louver, but the client in the end didn't feel that really works for them in terms of the maintenance. It's a high maintenance issue. So we went back to the drawing board and said, okay, so what is something that can be very subtle to downplay a little bit with the architecture of the building? You wouldn't want to detract too much from the triangles and the concrete and the materiality of that. And we came up with sort of a second facade that is open at the top and the bottom, so that you can get the natural ventilation. There's a heat that builds up between the two skins of the building, and the heat moves to the top and dissipates at the top, and you get the new cool air in from the bottom. That is something that's been used widely in Europe with a lot of success, and I think we proved on this side that it can work in South Africa as well.
In contrast to the heavily triangulated facades around the building, the entrance has strong, clean lines, which creates a sense of openness and welcomes people into the building.
We want to create this kind of idea of a portal, and we frame this entrance as you get into the building, and in a way the height actually creates quite a nice box that you kind of move through to get into the building. It has quite a large foyer area as you enter into the building, and we want, although it was kind of west facing, we wanted to make it kind of light and open, at least from the inside and outside in that sense, and make your entrance into the building quite dramatic. Immediately you actually know where you are, one, where you need to go, and also how the building is going to put together.
The interior public spaces of the building mirror the triangular theme, but in a highly polished texture palette to create contrast.
What we decided was, rather than copying the exterior raw concrete onto the inside in more than what we've currently done, we decided to play that off a little bit more in the interiors in terms of lighter, smoother finishes. So you get that contrast between the interior and the exterior, which always is a very important thing to do. Don't have too much of one finish and materiality in a building, and then you lose the dramatic effect that you get on the outside.
The design helps to regulate the light which enters the building during the day, but it also allows the building to become a feature in the way light emanates from it at night.
With the glazing, we've opted now for the 3 different kinds of colored glass. What it is a laminate glass, so it's literally got a vinyl in between 2 pieces of glass, so that you're on the outside you would see a clear glazing, and you would see 2 different colors of glazing otherwise. What we quite like is if you're on the inside, you get exactly the opposite one from what you've got on the outside. Another aspect of the glazing that's quite striking at night, the moment you put the light behind the vinyl, it actually becomes a light box. That again, the iconic and the landmark feeling you get driving past, and it's still a very striking building at night.
The Menlyn Podium is a building which will age gracefully. With its elegant, timeless design and the simplicity of materials, it's sure to remain a beacon in the landscape for years to come.